It's just past 5 p.m. across India, and live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Global. We'll get you the top stories from India and the region. I'm Prasar Bharati, and for news from the rest of the world, I am joined by my colleague in London, Ollie Barrett. Ollie, good to have you with us.
Good to be with you, Siddharth. It's 12:30 p.m. here in London, 1:30 p.m. across Central Europe. Coming up in the next 30 minutes, Iran's cabinet meets after the death of the country's president, a key moment in the Julian Assange extradition battle, and the latest from India's election. First, the headlines.
Iran's President Ebrahim Raisi dies in chopper crash. PM Modi condoles Ebrahim Raisi's death. Iran's cabinet holds new emergency session. Prime Minister says India stands with Iran in this time of sorrow. London's High Court to give a final decision on whether WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange should be extradited to United States or if he can have an appeal in Britain. Polling underway for 49 seats across 6 states and 2 union territories in India's parliamentary elections. After serving in various positions in Iran's judicial system, Ebrahim Raisi entered politics and rose up the ranks to become the country's president. He was confirmed dead on Monday in a helicopter crash. Our next report tells you more about the late leader's time in office. Have a look.
After hours of search amid dense fog in a mountainous region, rescuers in Iran were able to find the wreckage of the helicopter carrying Iranian President Ebrahim Raisi, Foreign Minister Hossein Amin Abdullahian, and 2 top officials. With this, the worst was confirmed. All on board were killed. Raisi, who was elected as the president in 2021, was for long seen as a potential successor to the country's supreme leader, Ayatollah Khamenei. Before entering politics, Raisi served as the Chief Justice of Iran. His short term in office saw various breakthroughs at the international level, including the resumption of ties between Iran and Saudi Arabia. Tehran also became a BRICS member. Just days before his death, India and Iran signed a deal to develop the Iranian port of Chabahar. With Ebrahim Raisi's death, Mohammad Mukber has become the interim president. An election is likely to be held within 50 days. Meanwhile, tributes from global leaders have been pouring in. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi said that he was deeply saddened and shocked. He added that Raisi's contribution to strengthening India-Iran bilateral relationship will always be remembered. UAE President Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan said that his country stood in solidarity with Iran in this difficult time. EU Chief Charles Michel also expressed his sincere condolences. Bureau Report, DD India.
Meanwhile, residents in Tehran expressed their shock over Raisi's death. They called the incident tragic.
When this happened yesterday and now this morning, when the news was confirmed, we really felt as if we lost an important support and weight.
It was really unfortunate news, not only for me but for many people in this country. After all, he is the elected president of the nation. The deceased was very active. They tried to follow up on things every day, and this saddened us more.
Iranian government convened a cabinet meeting on Monday in Tehran after the death of President Ebrahim Raisi as the country mourned their passing in a helicopter crash. Iran's first vice president, Mohammad Mukber, who became the interim president, also attended the meeting. All right, and DD India's Stuart Smith joins us for more details from Baghdad. Stuart, what's the latest that you're getting for us?
Now, we're hearing that the bodies of some of those found in that helicopter crash are starting to be moved to a centre in East Azerbaijan, that Iranian province where this accident happened. The ultimate plan is for a series of funerals. The first one is due to take place tomorrow. More will then follow. In the meantime, 5 days of mourning has begun. Around Iran, you are seeing flags swapped for black flags of mourning at religious and cultural sites. Lights will be turned off overnight on some of Iran and Tehran, the capital's most famous attractions, and there will be a cancellation of all cultural events while these 5 days of mourning take place. But there's also a massive emphasis from the new vice president, the now interim president, on continuity. He's saying that while this period is effectively a holiday for citizens, it is not a holiday for the government, and he says that he is prioritising continuity to make sure that everything continues as it should do during this period of instability. To that end, the Russian President Vladimir Putin, an ally of Iran who ordered the plane full of around 50 rescuers to try to help, has already spoken to that vice president this afternoon in order to keep those diplomatic and political channels open.
Okay, Stuart, now power has been transferred to Vice President Mohammad Mokber, and new elections must be held within 50 days as per the constitution there. More immediate political challenge would be staging early presidential elections. Any update regarding this?
Yeah, so election preparations are already underway. Very swiftly, that went into action. And the way this works in Iran is that there is a council that will decide who can be the candidates in any presidential election. For example, the last time this happened, around 600 were ruled out by this council. So names will already be being considered as to who should be the nominees. And then, indeed, in 50 days, that will take place. The Supreme Leader has suggested, according to the Vice President, that will be a priority to make sure these elections happen to enable the continuity of government. As to when this might happen, all we know is it has to happen before early July. There are no specifics on when or how it may be organised, but it comes as a shock because the presidential elections were not meant to happen for another few years, so the system wasn't ready for this.
All right, Stuart, thank you so much for your analysis. We'll keep taking updates from you. Thank you so much for joining in. India and Iran established diplomatic ties in 1950. Under President Ebrahim Raisi, relations between the two nations saw a boost due to various deals and interactions. Now, India and Iran signed a 10-year pact to develop the Iranian port of Chabahar. Iran officially became a member of the BRICS Forum. Pushing for greater use of national currency, India and Iran held discussions on using rupee and riyal in bilateral trade. Well, London High Court grants WikiLeaks' Julian Assange permission to appeal against extradition. Ollie Barrett is in London and gives us more on this and other stories making headlines around the world. Ollie, decisive day for Julian Assange.
It looks that way. We are starting to hear from the London High Court on that ruling that was expected on whether Julian Assange should be extradited to the United States or if he can have another appeal here in Britain in his long-running extradition battle. Earlier we had been hearing from Julian Assange's wife, Stella Assange, who had been saying that if the court didn't rule in his favour today, then he would turn to the European Court of Human Rights for an emergency injunction to block deportation. But as I say, we are starting to hear from the court today. So let's go live now to my colleague, DD India correspondent John Beaver. What are we hearing from the court, John?
Yeah, we're hearing that this has broken in literally the last couple of minutes, that Julian Assange has won the chance to make this last-ditch legal appeal. This is all about avoiding extradition to the US. As you said, his supporters, his legal team, his wife, everyone said this really was the last avenue that they were pursuing in terms of the British legal system, the one thing that was available to them after this was going to the European Court of Human Rights, as you said. But we are just hearing in the last few minutes, as I say, that he has won the chance to make another last-ditch legal appeal against his extradition to the US. His wife had spoken to reporters on her way into court and had said if they'd lost today, they feared that Mr. Assange might have been on a plane within 24 hours. So that shows you just how big this decision is in terms of him now being able to appeal the extradition again. So it seems that he has one more chance at trying to get this extradition request thrown out. A reminder, of course, this hearing today all relates back to the last time the court sat. That was back in March, when the High Court in the UK said they wanted some answers before they made a decision on his future. And that was about things like whether he would face the death penalty in the US, whether he would be able to rely on the First Amendment of the Constitution that protects free speech, whether him being Australian rather than an American citizen, whether that would count against him. The US, of course, say that Mr. Assange endangered lives by leaking classified documents. His legal team say it's all politically motivated because through WikiLeaks, the documents that were leaked and the video and recordings and this huge tranche of information that was leaked, they say that it embarrassed the US military and the US government because it showed illegal activity taking place. So they have always maintained that it was politically motivated. They've always said he was allowed to release this information because he was a journalist, and as they put it, the truth had to get out there. And it seems that in terms of this long-running legal trial, things are not quite over yet. He has this ability to appeal against his extradition. So a big day for Julian Assange, and it means that there will be another hearing here in the UK before any potential extradition to the US.
John Beaver, thank you. Russia claims to have taken control of the village of Bilohorivka in Ukraine's Lugansk region. Meanwhile, Russia's Slavyansk oil refinery has been damaged in a Ukrainian drone attack. Russia's been reporting a rise in Ukrainian attacks on its territory since its forces opened a new front in northeastern Ukraine's Kharkiv region earlier this month. Now, as fighting between Hamas and Israel continues, we have some breaking news, which is that the chief prosecutor of the International Criminal Court, we've learned, has applied for arrest warrants for Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Hamas's leader in Gaza as well. This over reasonable grounds from Karim Khan to believe that there might be criminal responsibility for war crimes and crimes against since those attacks on the 7th of October 2023 and what has taken place in Gaza since. And all of this comes as fighting between Hamas and Israel, as I say, continues. And the Defense Minister, Yoav Gallant, says that Israel intends to broaden its military operation in Rafah until the end of the dismantling of Hamas and the recovering of hostages is completed. Gallant's been speaking in a meeting with US National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan. Earlier, Sullivan held a meeting with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and discussed the fighting in Gaza, increasing humanitarian aid in the Strip and the return of Israeli hostages. Workers in the American city of Baltimore have started to clear a crashed cargo ship almost 2 months after the vessel downed the Francis Scott Key Bridge. The cargo ship Dali will be moved into a local marine terminal. In a preliminary report last week, the federal investigators looking into it said that the Dali had lost power several times before crashing into the Key Bridge on March the 26th. And with that, Siddharth, I'll hand it back to you.
All right, thank you so much, Ollie. That was Ollie Barrett joining us from London, and still to come on DD India Global. In a remarkable turnaround in last 10 years, India's banking sector net profit crossed around $36 billion for the first time ever. More details ahead. A Japanese company launches an electrified spoon that will enhance salty tastes without extra sodium intake. Stay tuned for more details on this.
The Indian government on 15th of May granted the first batch of citizenship certificates under the Citizenship Amendment Act. The Indian government calls it historic development, ending the decades-long wait of those who faced religious persecution.
We don't need any sermons about protection of minorities. We are capable of providing protection to minorities in our neighbouring countries when the need requires.
It has proved not only that the government has fulfilled its promise to help the people who are in need as a one-time exemption that was given.
India is committed to do so with giving first 300 citizenship certificates. India has shown that commitment, reiterated that commitment.
You're watching DD India Global. I am Siddharth Bharadwaj. Let's first get you with the latest on the world's largest democratic election in India. Voting for the fifth phase of India's general elections is underway in 49 constituencies across 6 states and 2 union territories. 695 candidates are in the fray for 14 seats in Uttar Pradesh, 13 in Maharashtra, 7 in West Bengal, 5 each in Bihar and Orissa, 3 in Jharkhand, and 1 each in Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh. Voting began at 7 a.m. and will continue till 6 p.m. local time. The next 2 phases will be held on May 25th and June 1st, and the counting of votes will be conducted on June 4th. The voter turnout for the Phase 5 general election at 3 p.m. local time stands. State of Maharashtra had 38.77% and Uttar Pradesh had 47.55%, whereas West Bengal witnessed 62.72% turnout. In the Union Territory of Ladakh, 61.26% was recorded, 45.33% turnout was recorded in the state of Bihar, and Jharkhand witnessed 53.9%. All right, and DD India correspondent Kriti Vadera joins us from Ayodhya. Kriti, tell us the latest voter turnout and how's the polling going on there?
Well, hi, good evening, Siddharth. And let me tell you, I'm standing in heart of Ayodhya, and this area is called Amaniganj, and there are 2 polling stations just adjacent to one another where I'm standing right now. And let me tell you that we are on roads from early morning 6:30 a.m. and officially voting started around 7 a.m. in the morning. And we witnessed large queues here on this road itself. But after 10, due to this extreme heat weather, voter turnout came down. And after 4, we are expecting that voters will be coming out of their home and will be casting their votes. So as of now, till the 3 p.m. latest voters turnout, this particular parliamentary seat appears to be around 45% voters turnout has happened on this parliamentary constituency. And Faizabad parliamentary constituency constitutes of 5 assembly seats, amongst which Ayodhya is one of them, and Ayodhya has polled the least, I would say, amongst all these 5 assembly seats, whereas the adjacent assembly seat is called Milkipur, which is a Dalit dominated seat, Dalit voters dominated seats, which has the voters turnout on that assembly seat is around more than 50% till 3 p.m. So this is the scenario of Faizabad parliamentary seat of Uttar Pradesh.
All right, thank you so much, Kriti. And it's very hot out there. Please stay hydrated, stay safe. We've been also joined by our correspondent Dibendu Mondal from West Bengal. Dibendu, how's it going on there? Quickly tell us about the voter percentage and how's it going on there, in terms of people coming out and voting.
Well, Siddharth, absolutely in West Bengal, the voter turnout has been pretty good.
till about 3 p.m. as per the Election Commission's data. Allow me to read out. There's about 62.72% voter turnout till 3 p.m. There are 7 seats that are going to polls, and apart from the 2 seats, all the seats have recorded over 60% of turnout, with the highest being the Arambagh constituency, which has polled about 67.12%. So, of course, this percentage is going to go up further because of the fact that this data that we are talking about is of 3 p.m. The latest data will be uploaded by the Election Commission at about 6 p.m. when the polling
very
closes.
quickly,
Yes, of course.
if I could interrupt you, Dibendu, tell us, how enthusiastically people are voting. Very quickly.
Very, very enthusiastically, Siddharth. We have seen long queues outside polling stations in each and every polling station that we have visited. But Siddharth, just let me add with a small caveat here with the enthusiastic voters in West Bengal. This polling phase is marred with incidents of violence as well. We have been getting reports since morning that there have been incidents of violence coming in from Barakpur, Hooghly, as well as Bangaon Lok Sabha.
Okay, as per what you said, people are voting very enthusiastically, and the atmosphere is quite good there as far as the voting is concerned. Thank you so much, Dibendu and Kriti, for joining in. Campaigning for the last 2 phases of India's parliamentary election continues apace, with candidates ramping up their efforts across the country. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi is on a campaigning spree. PM Modi started his election campaign with a roadshow in Puri, followed by public meetings in Dhenkanal and Cuttack in Odisha. Later in the day, he held a public rally in Jhargram in West Bengal. Meanwhile, Union Home Minister Amit Shah was in the North Indian state of Haryana. He held 3 massive rallies in Karnal, Hisar and Rohtak constituencies. Later in evening, he will hold a public rally in national capital of Delhi. The opposition parties are also leaving no stone unturned to woo the voters. West Bengal Chief Minister and TMC Supremo Mamta Banerjee held a public rally in Medinipur, West Bengal. In an exclusive interview with DD News, Prime Minister Narendra Modi spoke on a variety of topics. After Jagannath Darshan at Puri, a city in eastern part of India, PM Modi said that the constitution has been the guiding light for him to run the government. Prime Minister said he has been celebrating the Indian constitution for a long time.
मैं डॉक्टर बाबा साहब आम्बेडकर का, मैं संविधान सभा का, उस समय सभी महापुरुषों का सर झुका करके प्रणाम करता हूं कि उन्होंने देश को ऐसा संविधान दिया कि एक चाय वाले का बेटा, एक गरीब मां का बेटा, और मेरे देश के लोकतंत्र की ताकत देखिए कि उसने उसे प्रधानमंत्री बना दिया। मेरे लिए तो संविधान शासन चलाने का सबसे बड़ा धर्म ग्रंथ है। मेरे लिए एक राजनेता के रूप में, एक पॉलिटिकल लीडर के रूप में, एक जनप्रतिनिधि के रूप में संविधान मेरा मार्गदर्शक है और मैं उसका पुजारी हूं। और ये पूजा मैं आज से नहीं कर रहा हूं। जब संविधान के 60 साल हुए थे तो मैं पहला व्यक्ति था देश में जिसने हाथी पर संविधान रखा और संविधान की यात्रा निकाली, और मोदी सीएम था, पैदल चल रहा था।
In a remarkable turnaround in the last 10 years, India's banking sector net profit crossed around $36 billion for the first time ever. In a post on social media, PM Modi said the improvement in the health of banks will help improve credit availability to poor, farmers and MSMEs. While public sector banks generated a record around $16.8 billion in net profit during the year, an increase of 34% over the year-ago period. During the same period, the private sector banks increased their net by 42% to nearly $20 billion. This net is approximately the total quarterly profits of all listed companies in the first 3 quarters in this fiscal year. South Africa's top court has barred former President Jacob Zuma from contesting this month's parliamentary elections. And tainted by graft scandals, Zuma was forced to resign as president in 2018. He had a fallout with the ruling African National Congress and is now rallying behind a new party. In March, the country's Electoral Commission disqualified Zuma, saying that the constitution prohibits anyone who was handed a prison sentence of 12 months or more from holding a parliamentary seat. Let's take a look at other stories making news around the world. Following a dedicated repatriation process, 2 important bronze artifacts of Thailand have been brought back successfully. Illegally smuggled out of the country, these artifacts were in New York for decades. A formal welcoming ceremony will be held at Bangkok's National Museum on Tuesday to mark the return. A team of researchers has discovered what can be called a complete dragonfly fossil found so far in North China. The discovery will provide better understanding about the natural history and evolution of dragonflies. The fossil belongs to an extinct dragonfly species of family Euthymnistidae. A Japanese company, Kirin Holdings, launched an electrified spoon that will enhance salty tastes without extra sodium intake on Monday. Co-developed by Meiji University professor Home Miyashita, the spoon aims to address health issues related to high sodium intake like high blood pressure, strokes and other ailments. That's all for this edition of DD India Global, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X and Instagram. You can also check out our website ddindia.co.in. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj from all of us here in New Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India Global.